Hi everyone, welcome back to this week's SEL Spotlight. This is Mrs. Gonzalez, and today we are focusing on the importance of gathering information in your decision-making process. Why is gathering information, why is this even worthy of having an SEL Spotlight? Well, gathering information is a key component in the decision-making process. And if you recall our last SEL Spotlight, we started this conversation on making decisions and all the factors that needed to be considered. So that's why we are focusing specifically on this topic of gathering information today. And I want to illustrate the importance with this little story I want to share with you. A man was driving to Alaska, and halfway there, he ran into a huge snowstorm. He got lost. He pulled over to wait out the storm, and finally, the snow stopped. He noticed that there was a snowplow right in front of him. Relieved, he's breathing a sigh of relief. He started up his car and he began following that plow as it cleared snow off the road. After a while, the snowplow stopped. The driver got out and walked back to the man's car. And she asked, "Where are you headed, sir?" And he responds, "I'm on my way to Alaska." You know what she said? "Well, you're not going to get there by following me. I'm just plowing out this parking lot." So I know I shared that I was going to share that story to illustrate the importance, but what's the biggest takeaway from that story? Why did I share it? Snowplow, parking lot. Well, I shared it with you because I want you to take note that this driver in this story didn't quite stop to find out all the facts. And he wound up making a decision that didn't get him anywhere. So we really would like to avoid those situations in life. I think everybody would like to. So if you don't stop and find out the facts, then you can end up making decisions that don't get you anywhere. And we're going to be looking at how easy it is to be able to get the information that you need in order to make good decisions. Okay? So, little activity that we're actually going to work on here. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, me and my questions during these SEL Spotlights, and I'm going to ask you to respond with yes or no. Okay? So just go ahead and blurt out your response or use a thumbs up or thumbs down hand gesture, whatever you feel most comfortable to show agreement and disagreement, okay? Here we go. If I offer you $1,000 to go on a shopping spree, will you take it? Oh yes, one thing though, you can only spend the money in certain stores that I tell you. Would you still take it? And I forgot, if you take the money, you'll be required to spend half on yourself and half on someone else. Will you still accept the $1,000? But wait, there's actually two more conditions here that I'm listing. If you take the $1,000, you'll have to spend it by the end of the week. You'll have to spend it on something that will last more than a year. So this would be like an MP3 player or like an iPod, flat screen TV, laptop, video game system, something that'll last you more than a year. How many of you out there will still take this money? Well, if you're still willing to take the money, tell someone next to you and tell them why you would still take this money. Oh, but you know what? I completely failed to mention that this very important thing. If you take the $1,000, you'll have to pay me $6,000 by the end of the week. Do you still want the money? My guess is going to be a big no, because this deal that I'm offering you did not actually benefit you in the end, right? You were going to have to owe me more money than I originally gave to you. What could you have done to find out this information earlier instead of, wasting your time with all these other questions and giving you all these other details? Are there questions that you could have asked me when I made the initial proposal? I know this is kind of it's a recorded thing, but, let's say hypothetically, if you could ask me questions, right? You would probably ask me something like, what's the catch, right? Or what do I need to do in order to get this money, which would be absolutely legitimate questions. So hopefully you see that with, the short activity, it's very important for you to make sure that you have as much information as possible before making a decision or committing to something. Getting the information you need to make a decision isn't always as difficult as, we would sometimes think it is. You just need to take the time to ask the right questions. So let's look at another example, and I want to put your information gathering skills to the test. I want you to imagine that I make you a job offer and you have to decide whether to accept it. You will have the opportunity to ask me questions about the job offer that I make to you. So how will you decide what questions to ask me? I suggest that you first start thinking about what is most important to you. What's really important to you, and then using that as a starting point to guide the questions that you're going to be asking me. So go ahead, pause for a moment, pause the video if you need to, and think about the questions that you would ask me in order to make your decision. Write them down if it's helpful to you. All right, so here's the thing. You can only ask me up to 5 questions to find out as much information about this job offer I've made. So if you went over those 5 questions, kudos to you, my friend. But here are the deets on this job offer. The hours are from 3 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. The job is working as an assistant in the elementary school office. An assistant runs the copy machine, changes bulletin boards, and cleans and sets up classrooms. The assistants must wear orange smocks while working. The pay is $8 an hour, and the supervisor is very strict, but also fair. So I want you to review your questions and ask yourself, or maybe have someone else help you, if you could have asked me those questions that you generated live in person, would your questions have generated the answers or details I provided here? How many details were you able to get based, with the questions that you had? Which question or questions did you find most effective in getting the details? So here I do ask you to go ahead and share the most effective in the video comments below. So you might need to pause and share your most effective question, what you thought would be your most effective question in generating as many details here. And if you were successful in getting the information that you needed, then your questions would be considered effective. If they didn't, then this is a great opportunity to identify how your questions could improve in gathering information that you need. So oftentimes we say, like for us as counselors, we ask open-ended questions. So, what was the outcome? Or can you describe, they're not yes or no questions that would just require like a yes response or a no response. Like, did you get a good response? That's a closed-ended question, right? So sometimes we need those, but oftentimes you get more details by asking those open-ended questions. And the more important a decision is in your life, the more information that you're going to want to gather. So the more questions you'll want to ask in order to make your decision, okay? And I can assure you that you will feel more confident in making your decision when it's one that is informed. So we come to our end here of our spotlight, and I do want to just kind of reiterate some points that I hope that you were able to pick up on today. It's important to take time to get the information you need before making decisions. Asking the right questions and listening to the answers is an effective way to get that information. And then lastly, informed decisions are always going to be your best decisions. So I do want to thank you very much for joining us for this week's SEL Spotlight. I hope